Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our very first Todd Power Talk. No need to say my name's Lee Woodward. You are all members and part of our group. Todd stands for Training on Demand, and Training on Demand is the future of digital training separate to our live workshop training. This week, we've already had our first live workshop where we did the Presenting to Win business, which was part of our session in Sydney. And when we did the Presenting to Win business, it was great to see everyone understand just what's going on in the marketplace right now and how that has changed across the country. So what we're going to do today is different. We're going to do our listed to settled process. And what we're going to do with that is break down the whole journey from beginning to end to make sure you understand how the strategy locks into what happens. Now, just recently, and I'll go to my screen, we had Jed and Shane come over to Real Estate Academy. And when they came up to Real Estate Academy, they wanted to perfect their listed to settled process. And in perfecting the listed to settled process, we went through an enormous journey, which then ended up in becoming the audio listed to settled. This is one of my concerns. That day had days before it. So there's probably 80 hours or so that Shane and Jed have put into what is our perfect process. And one of the requests that we have back from all of you at some stage in your career is, how do I get structured? How do I get organised? What do I need to do? Now, I agree with that concept, but Todd, Training on Demand, is going to be about, well, hang on, we've done this piece of work, how's it not been executed in your business? And one of my concerns about training is, what's the next new thing we're going to learn? What's the next new thing we're going to learn? When really, has that piece of work been executed? So the audio, I'm going to bring it up on screen just in case you haven't seen it. The audio that we did is called Listed to Settled. And the Listed to Settled audio goes from beginning to end, and it talks through what we call a member graduate of perfecting the process. For those of you that have watched the Jed Wood career, you won't find a more professional and better person who's dedicated himself to getting it right. But it's not a business administration checklist. It's the all-in-one everything checklist. And when I show you the new swim lanes to it, and I don't want to confuse you on that point, when you are doing frameworks with us at the Complete Salesperson course and you read the book, we talk about capture, send, connect. This is different. This is where the property's been listed and the production line of horizontal and vertical management can now happen. And once you understand that production line, you'll actually see, and today you're going to see it, that something triggers the next conversation. Something else triggers the next conversation. And then we can bring in the digital view of that, of what the owner is seeing. And that's how I want to bring it all together. So let me cross back to my screen. I'm going to take you through the grid that makes up Listed to Settled in the background in its psychology and thinking. Here we go. Firstly, everything in real estate sales for vendors is about trust. They want to know you are safe hands, doing the right thing, and winning professional trust. The next one in the grid, and I'm using a grid to trigger your thinking early, is where we actually say what words and phrases are going to work for the owner. And the replacement word I've asked you to remove from your dialogue is the word advertising, and I want you to now use the word promotions. Now, promotions could be, I've got a just sold or a just listed going out this week. I've got 355 people who are registered in that price range, and they may want to have a look at the property. I'm texting your property webbook out right now. So instead of the old thinking of, well, let's look at that old thinking. The old thinking was, we got 1 week of ads, 2 week of ads, 3 week of ads, we'll now reduce it. That is very old-fashioned thinking. Today, we can do 5 promotions by Saturday. And if we haven't got the result we're looking for, our next price on Wednesday will be. And we've got to move away from these big weeks to compressing time. You've got to work with your owner in real time. If I said to you now, go to Facebook and see what's happened, and Facebook said, I'll let you know next week all the updates, you would be shocked. because you want to see in real time what's going on. Well, so does the owner. What happened this morning? What happened this afternoon? Now, I'm not saying you have to give feedback in that instantaneous moment, but think in real time of what's going on. And to do that, you need to notify the owner what you have done. One of the big things we've discussed in the last 12 months of vendor management is most of what you do is invisible. And if you're lacking that structure and suddenly you've got 10 listings or 6 listings, and some of you are carrying more listings than ever at the moment due to the gap in the market, and how does a gap occur? The owner's thinking about the price back here, the buyer's waiting for that price to be reduced in the future, you get a gap. So in that gap theory, the continuous little updates, little text messages, just letting you know, I've just texted out your webbook to 255 people is an update. But it's got to be in real time, but it's now a promotion. So be asking yourself and using the words with your owner every week, this is this week's promotions. Now you may think ringing 35 buyers about a property is just part of your day. That is a promotion. Getting the property live to the internet, that is a promotion. Having the owner post the property on Facebook, that is a promotion. How many promotions are you doing that you are not getting credit for? And in that emotional bank account of credit, and we've discussed that before, that you start at naught, you do something well, you get a credit. It's only then the owner has seen you put a bit of sweat into their property that they will now listen to the possibility of a reduction. So promotions has got to be a new driver in what you say. Let's cross back to screen. Our next one is questions. What are you going to do if we don't get the price you're expecting? It's a question. I want to leave the property where it is right now, but in 2 weeks' time, I think our next price will be. And questions get answers, statements get judged. It's no different to the listing world. But I think some of you need to gather a list of questions that you leave on your desk for your quick chats with your owner. You'll always have a bad conversation if you're not referencing something. And I'll never forget when John McGrath originally appeared on Real Estate Hot Topics and said, I'm not that smart. I've got a list of questions, and when I ring the owners, I reference my questions. The communication and process. If an owner doesn't know where they're going, it's hard for them to follow where you are. And today we're seeing some great work from our members as they use digital communication to be in real time. So a coaching tip there is when you're setting up the owner for the setup to sell or the process ahead, and you're having that quick chat meeting with them, you say, look, let me just grab your phone. I'm just going to save our reporting system to your home screen. And all I'm doing there is, if you're using the Webbook's progress report or a Webbook to report, you can save that to their home screen. If you don't know how to do that, you can ring our Webbook support team, or anyone with an iPhone who knows how to save a link can show you. That means the owner can click on that at any given time and see where they are. They don't want to log into your back-end portal. They don't want to go to some website to find out what's going on. The world is now about touch on glass. I want to see what my agent's up to, and the Webbook service provides that perfectly. But that process is where we're going to spend our time today. And good news for you, the reason this is a 25-minute TED Talk is 80 hours went into the listed settled audio and the checklist. And when you get that checklist today, you will see the difference in how a professional rollout looks versus a business administration checklist. Let's go back to screen. Our next one is reporting, and obviously the progress report, and I'm going to ask you to change the words from vendor report to progress report, is the progress on the property. Then we've got the pricing and modifications. Your price reduction should be in your outlook. You should be clear that if we haven't got this at a good level here, it's going to change there. If you're not forecasting your own mind, you won't have those critical conversations. And I know myself, if I look at my calendar ahead and think, oh wow, is that next Tuesday? I better start putting some time and effort into the preparation of that. Versus 2 weeks has gone by, you've had no pricing modification questions, and now you're saying the owner's unrealistic, they won't listen to me. You weren't listening to you. This is coming up, and you've got to start that preparation. And I think that's the defining moments. We know when the signboard goes up, it's a defining moment. We know when the property goes live on the internet, it's a defining moment. And I want you to take note of that one little point, that defining moments should be the triggers that takes you into the next part of the conversation, that delivers the facts, and then allows you to get to the truth of how this all works. When we look at getting to the truth, that was also one of your audios that was given out in the last 12 months, and that featured Kieran from McGrath in New South Wales. One of the best audios ever on that topic. I hope you've been through that work. I've listened to that one myself 9 times. And I go through it, not just for the editing, but there is just brilliant dialogue from a seasoned international performer, meaning on an international level, he would rank as one of the best agents in the world based upon his process. But sometimes you grab an audio, I haven't got to that one yet, I haven't listened to that one yet, and I think, wow, if you could get any time with someone like that, and that's why we bring you practitioners, you've got to go back and listen to those words. And one of the great lines of that audio was, if I could get a price for you today that you would feel comfortable, what would it need to be for you to feel comfortable? And if I couldn't get that, what would the next price be? But you'll pick up in Kieran's interview that he was very good at third questions. Question 1, we all do it. Question 2, you're getting a little bit deeper. Question 3, you're moving deep into that critical conversation that the owner needs to prepare themselves to sell the property. Otherwise, they're protected by you, price and internet, and they don't have to make any decisions at all. So I'm going to take you into this checklist, but before I do that, I want to reflect on something that we've taught you in the past as part of the model. We'll go back to screen, and I'm going to look at all the assets and drivers that we have available to you that allows the vendor management process to work in the area of communication. Let's have a look. Firstly, when we look at vendor communication, it is a communication process. And beginning with the end in mind, the everything email is the end of the line. And for those of you that haven't read the everything email, you need to go to our resource centre and go through that so you've got it. The listed to settle checklist, we've had those in the past. Today is the very best one we've ever done. And when you see this and get hold of it, this will fast track and progress your career. Then we got the thank you for listing letter or the webbook that goes out that allows us to have the client services standards understood of what we're doing behind the scene. Our reverse engineered emails. A reverse engineered email. This is where we're actually working through the content and using that on screen and then sending it to the client. It's a great technique. Templated SMS, your live mobile vendor reporting, the meeting plan and agenda when you go in, your price adjustment system. Now, for those of you doing auction, that is your price adjustment system. For those of you that are not, you've got to get it right within what we have in the checklist so you can have offer and acceptance come through. Okay. We are now about to see the new process and the visuals that create this new timeline. But let me be clear. We are not working from our framework of capture, send, connect. This is different. I'm using the same technique to explain it to you, and then I will give you the background work of how it works. But what I would love to see happen today is that we have an agreement as membership and also as your coaching advisors that this is the real estate sales process. Now, some of you have had a sneak peek at this. Those that have listened to the audio will understand it. But let's look at the final process line or production line that we've come up with at Real Estate Academy to teach this to you. I'll cross the screen. It looks like this. Now, I've kept out the detail at the moment, but if we look at the listed to settled sales process and procedure, in the middle is the milestones, a little bit like the train tracks that we talk about when we move through a progress line, it's all there. Above the line is the visual that triggers the next stage. So for everyone in this country listening and overseas, you need an authority to activate the property. And then that production line of checklist can happen below it. Then above the line, I've put listing book. Now you probably have manila folder or digital folder, but as part of WebBooks now, we're bringing out a digital holding system for everything to do with that property, which means it can be processed. We're now on number 2. Then we've got our progress report that can be populated, saved to the owner's phone because we're about to go to design stage. And when we get to design stage, that's where we can say to the owner, I've just loaded all the photos and floor plans into your progress report. Could you have a look? And just sign off on those. Then, once our design's finished, above the line, the property web book can be created, which means we are actually now ready for our release of the property in our VIP marketing. Above the line again, we've got our wonderful internet launch, which means we're launching to the marketplace. Then we've got press coming out, which means we're doing the marketing of the property. We're going to be reviewing reports with the owner, which is above the line, which means review is Latin for price reductions, adjusting to get it right. Then above the line, we've got the contract, because we're now hitting the negotiation stage. Above the line, we've got exchange, because it's now sold. And then below the line, we've got the actions to that. Above the line is the gift, because we're about to settle. So there's 10 visual moments and 10 milestone moments that bring that all together. Now, at the end of today's Power Talk, you're going to get these slides. These slides have been being put together today because this is a live, real-time seminar. But the one I really want you to take notice of is the checklist. It has been perfected so that we can get those milestones to all come together. Let me now show you the checklist crossing the screen. Now you can see the authority activate all the checkpoints. Listing book, process all the checkpoints. If I move that along now, every part of this process has been methodically documented due to the wonderful work of Jed and Shane, who've put hours and hours and hours of effort, and they were trying to improve their own process at the same time. It was just great for us at Real Estate Academy to work with them in that audio, which you now have, in the swim lanes, so that we could bring in our new format of these 10 milestones. But there is so much going on in that checklist and a critical part of your learning today. I hope that just made complete sense to you. I don't want to go too fast, but it is a power talk. And I can accelerate because I've done the work. The checklist is there. You've now got to grab hold of this and modify this checklist to you. But again, I'm not just talking about load to the internet. I'm talking about things like this. Have the 1 week conversation with the owner that I don't want to reduce the property yet. I want to leave it where it is. But on the 5th, our next price will be. Now that technique of price reduction in advance forecasting, which is what it is an important part of the technique. But it actually happens when the property's been released to the marketplace. Why? In technique, we want to get as much as we can in line that before it hits the internet, imagine if it hit the internet at the right price. Don't waste great money of marketing funds having a property exposed at the wrong price because you are in yesterday's thinking that, oh, well, it hasn't even been on the internet yet. The change in that thinking would be, we've done 9 promotions before we've been to the internet. It's no longer about time, it's about action. And when an owner sees that you put that much effort into getting that right, it makes a significant difference. And this is where the next part of the checklist becomes important. If we know everything that we do is invisible, the question then becomes, how do we make that visible? And for those of you that have been seeing some of the great work from the Webbooks community, what we're seeing now with our progress reports is outstanding. And the one featured in the audio was the Jedwood one. Let's cross to that now. In Jed's wonderful video audio, it talks about this pre-listing kit. And you can see as that goes through how he's got the marketing in there that was used, the calendar of events, and that's when the owner's gaining visibility on the whole thing. He can also ring the owner and say, oh, we've just finished your web book, click on the link, let me know what you think. The Facebook post is now ready to go. Hi Helen, all the photos are in. If you could just click through those, I think they look fantastic. And with your sign off, I've got a few promotions I'd like to do today. He's then got the opportunity to say floor plans are in, showing good volume of the home. Brochure's just come back from printing, looks fantastic.
Our signboard is ready to be erected, and we've got the address on there, looking good. Just sold going out today, just listed's going out today as part of our DL process. Building a pest report came in, few concerns, few defects, but I'll be able to manage that. Now I know what they are. Hi Helen, got a price change for you. If I can just get you to sign off on that, I've now loaded that into our system, and then he's got his task list of what he's finished behind the scenes. And what we've got here now is just a brilliant way of bringing that information all together in one. I hope you're as impressed with that structure as I was. But that front-end vendor journey there is completely supported structurally by the back-end checklist in the listed to settled audio program that you now have and have access to. Now, prior to coming on air, Robin had asked that question. Most of you hadn't listened to the audio. I know you're busy out there. I know there's so many things coming at you. But as a member of Real Estate Academy, when we send you something, it's because it's part of progress professional development. It's not part of promotional what's going on in the world of free audio, free podcasts. Lots of hours are going into that blended learning. And to get the most out of your time with us and our professional advice for you, this is where you've got to take those pieces of content and make it part of your business. And I know when you're listening or not, because I know the questions I get back of, you mentioned something in the latest audio, can you tell me about? You mentioned a great dialogue, can I just ask why that's used? And when it's not used, we know we're not getting through or activating what it is. Hence now these power talks are going to allow us to backfill that learning and get you to commit to the lockdown. Now I'm going to cross back to my screen because there's one other audio that I want you to have, and it's an important one. When I mentioned before that Getting to the Truth was done with Kieran, it was such a great audio because it had so much dialogue in it. Let's have a quick listen to some of the highlights of that audio.
You need to earn the right to have that conversation. So that's a couple of things. That's the quality of the information that you're giving them. It's the frequency in which you're speaking to them. But you continually need to get your vendors to make decisions all the time. So that might be, if I had a buyer that was ready to go now, what would they need to pay for you to be comfortable? And then they'll say a certain figure and you say, okay, what if we couldn't get that? What would you do? And pause. Sometimes people think it's all about what you say, Lee. Sometimes it's about what you don't. And being comfortable with saying nothing, asking a question and allowing the client to answer without you interrupting, and then actively listening to what they tell you. That will give you all the information you need to tailor a solution for them. With a vendor, the key for agents to learn is you cannot take hope away. Can't take hope away from them about the possibility of what the property would sell for. The days of going in and listing it at any kind of price and the market paying that, I think, are finished. If you continue to do that as a salesperson, you're going to upset a lot of people, and they talk a lot, and it's going to be very difficult for you to get business going forward. So how do I get to the heart of it? I think I just be very vulnerable when I'm delivering that information. You've got to be very careful at the tone in which you deliver an uncomfortable conversation, and just allow them to speak and allow them to talk. And that comes from actively listening to what they say. If you do that and you're not scared of the outcome, I think you're going to be fine.
Very powerful. To get hold of that audio, you can just text the word truth to the 0429 272 009 and it will come back to you as part of what we do. That brings us to the conclusion of our first Todd Power Talk. What are the actions? You need to listen to both audios and go through Jed's audio while having the checklist out in front of you, if possible. If not, go for a massive walk, do your mailbox drop, lock yourself in a park, put the headset on, but listen to that audio. That would be action 1. Action 2, grab the checklist and start modifying everything that you do or do not have. And I will actually have Robin send that to you in a webbook just so you can cut and paste
the text and not rewrite it out so you can have it. But I'm actually saying I want to see all of you have those swim lines and those actions confirmed of how you sell a home. You do not have to sell a home like Jed and Shane. You need to work out your recipe for selling a house, and that would be a professional milestone of your career. Next action is to listen to the Getting to the Truth audio and understand how that audio is constructed in its brilliant words, the active listening. And let's let silence do the heavy lifting. I think many of us as salespeople, me included, we jump in too fast, we don't allow that airtime, and we're not thinking ahead of the owner's time frame or showing the owner what we do to deserve the right that we can reduce the property and get it sold. And in these challenging times that we've seen in the last 6 months, it's definitely a time to upskill, get your technique and do everything you can. But you're not alone. Success is never a solo performance. The Real Estate Academy has some of the very best members, very best estate agents in this country sharing the information that you've got. But you've got to activate it and get it into the marketplace. And we look forward to your feedback from today's session as we build the next session in real time, bring those assets together that you may or may not have seen so we can make it part of your business. So thank you for joining us on the very first Todd Training on Demand. It is the future. You'll see many more programs coming out from us in digital. Till next time, goodbye.